from my point of view, I don't want to hire specialists to manage Salesforce.com. I don't want to hire specialists to manage my tech stacks. What I want to do is outsource that to a competent set of people so that I can focus on running my business. In my position, I needed expertise, and not necessarily the expertise that I had at that moment, which was all associated with legacy thinking. We needed expertise that could move us to the sort of next level. Rather than build internal expertise, we've partnered with scaleMatters. They designed the system, built the metadata initially to show us where to start. We've changed it a lot since we started, but we had no idea where to start. Built that into a comprehensive funnel that we can understand. Have worked with me to develop the analytics. So I'm doing less and less of the analytics on my own and relying more on the scaleMatters tools as they're being developed. And fundamentally gave us visibility and control of that funnel, which we just didn't have before. The website is an important part of the data capture because it is the start of the funnel for most of our content. We get something like, if I was trying to pull numbers, it's probably 60% of our leads that come in, and look at that, a number, right? That's something we couldn't have before we had this engagement, right? So like 60% of our leads that we end up chasing are coming in through unpaid captures associated with the website. So we've gone from 75 leads coming in on a global basis to over 600 leads coming in on a global basis per month. That's a massive increase, and a lot of that is down to that interaction, us deciding how that top of the funnel got built, and then how we capture that data automatically. So making sure HubSpot's set up appropriately to capture the right data, to funnel it into Salesforce. From our point of view, the introduction of Salesforce.com gave us the tools to do the measurements and to actually gather the data we needed to actually become a data-driven organization. And before that, it was individual management, Excel spreadsheets. It was individual, gut feels. We had an internal tool called SKM that nobody populated because it was garbage. But fundamentally, it was garbage because nothing beneficial ever came out of it. It didn't feed back into the process. It didn't manage the process. One of the first things I found out when I was using Salesforce and was generating all of these numbers is that Salesforce couldn't tell me what I needed to know. The numbers were there, but it doesn't do the reports that I want to know as a manager. How am I performing? So I'm pulling things out, I'm understanding success rate. I've got countless Excel spreadsheets where I've been analyzing the data, and I'm killing those one at a time as scaleMatters software increases in terms of capability, because it's focusing on the same thing. How can we accurately understand the business over time, as opposed to deliver a tool, which is what Salesforce does, that's measuring the here and now. What you want is not just to focus on driving deals that are happening today, but to understand, how am I doing over time? Let's look at the data for the whole of the last year. Look at those sorts of trends. Where am I doing well? Where am I not doing well? How do I change my process to improve? And when I've changed that process, how do I know that change has worked, right? Those sorts of questions you don't get out of Salesforce. You get out of hours and hours of analysis using Excel, or a tool that gets put on top of Salesforce that actually does it for you. Can you tell me how well you're doing this month compared to last February? Can you tell me when you made that change in the language on the website, what was the impact to your leads, your conversion rate, to your wins as a result of that singular change, right? The point is measuring the right things and measuring performance over time, right? So if you are going to look at a person, understand, is that person improving? Are they getting worse, right? What is the median of what's happening with all of the staff? Some of the graphs that come out of the trending over time, metrics that scaleMatters puts together allows me to look at, okay, how are the account executives doing I talked about forming that pre-sales team, right? I can look at how, in terms of establishing contact, the account manager is doing compared to the pre-sales team, right? I can group these things. I can look at these metrics. I can look at performance over time. Salesforce doesn't do that. And our target for me was always data-driven decision making, right? And that means gathering the right metrics, understanding what data you need in order to make those sorts of decisions. This is the data that you need to have in order to keep adjusting your funnel, your processes, and to measure them and understand where your weak points are. And it's not about just measuring the performance of your sales guys. It's about using that data to drive better decision making and better targeting to generate either more leads or be more successful with the leads you do generate, and to elevate everybody sort of as a company, not from a point of view that necessarily I'm going to measure this individual and hit them over the head if they're not performing as well as everybody else, but from a point of view of this is what the process looks like. Are you doing the right things? How can we improve that process? We've got a baseline measurement, change the process. Are we doing better? You know whether you're doing better. You don't have to guess it. That data that we're able to capture in the last year has meant this year we're going into saying we sold more services than we have the capacity to do. That is a measurement we didn't even have in the past. Sounds ridiculous, but unless you measure these things, you track them, you don't measure what you have as income, which is what they were doing before, you measure what you could get as income, then that differential sort of makes you realize how understaffed you are. We're expanding our services organization in North America by 40% this year. There's a massive expansion, and it's all based on the numbers that we've been gathering and the work that was done around Salesforce, not just to control the funnel, but to understand what the finances are, what the predictability is, what is it we sell versus what is our capacity, because we can answer those questions. And it's been a continuous theme over the last 10 years. Services is under-resourced, but because they've never been able to really say how under-resourced, right? It's always, well, let's just add one or two people. Let's just add one or two people. Now we're going to add 50 in 1 year. And we couldn't have done that without this data set, so it's fantastic. I think what it was used to, obviously, is that people move slowly, and this might have taken a 2-year transition, and at the end of the day, we did it almost from a standing start in 3 months, I think, which was phenomenal. And we've been refining and adjusting and changing ever since that moment. But that moment when we said we're doing the whole thing was his sort of the huge grin on his face and going, okay, I can stop worrying about this. This is sorted. And he's been diving into the data ever since. My meetings with him are stupidly detailed on the data because I love it and I know it. So when he asks questions, we just do it. And he loves that, being able to understand, how many of these deals we're losing to competitors versus how many are just sort of dying on the vine. What are the reasons for those sorts of losses, and how many opportunities we're juggling, how the different regions are doing. We're going to be expanding Salesforce rapidly now because we've got this Office 365 rollout virtually completed. So we're going to be expanding that tech stack to the rest of the world very, very quickly. So it won't just be leads for everybody, it'll be everything.